In 2014, at the Perth airport in Australia, a group of passengers was waiting for the arrival of one of the most talked-about artists of the decade, Justin Bieber. The commotion was intense, as always happens when such a recognizable figure steps onto public ground. But amid the excitement and flashes, murmurs began to spread, soon turning into terrifying accounts. Some witnesses claimed to have seen something unusual, something that defied any rational explanation. According to these people, the singer's eyes had changed shape, revealing a reptilian appearance for a few brief seconds. The story took on a life of its own when a local news outlet published the reports. A few hours later, the content was removed without explanation. What could have been just another sensationalist headline started to take on the contours of a cover-up. Since then, videos have begun to surface, footage in which the pop star's eyes appeared to blink in an irregular, unnatural way. Visual coincidence or glitches in a facade hiding something much greater. After all, what really happened at that Australian airport in 2014? Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I'm Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Before we begin, I want to ask for your help. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, but it makes a huge difference in helping YouTube share these videos with more people and in allowing me to keep bringing this content to you. I'm counting on you. Let's get into the video. Have you ever noticed how some events seem too small to draw attention, but leave behind a trail no one can erase? That's exactly what happened in 2014 at the Perth airport in Australia. Justin Bieber had just landed in the country on another stop during his world tour. The atmosphere was the usual: excited fans, cameras rolling, flashes everywhere. But some people who were there that day swear they witnessed something out of the ordinary. They weren't talking about strange behavior or a moody moment from the singer. It was something physical, something that defied logic. According to these reports, Bieber's eyes changed. Literally. For a brief moment, they supposedly took on a yellowish color, with vertical pupils, like a reptile's eyes. And it wasn't just one or two people saying this. It was several. At first, these accounts seemed like rumors from overexcited fans. But they soon gained traction when Perth Now, a respected outlet in Australia, published an article addressing the testimonies. The article was direct, mentioned the event, and included quotes from those who had witnessed the scene. The content didn't sound like a joke or a fabrication. It sounded like something that, at the very least, deserved to be questioned. But then, the article disappeared. And when I say disappeared, I mean exactly that. Hours after being published, it was deleted from the site. No notice, no explanation. No correction note, nothing. Anyone who tried to access it later only found a blank page. But the internet, as always, was faster. Screenshots of the article spread across forums and social media. The case blew up, not because of what the article said, but because of how quickly it vanished. And then comes the burning question: why remove an article like that? An official explanation never came. Perth Now chose silence. But that silence was precisely what fueled the theories. Because if it were just poorly reported news, why not publish a retraction? Why simply erase everything? By this point, what was once a bizarre account turned into potential evidence of a cover-up. Things got even more serious because the details in the reports were eerily consistent. Everyone said the same thing: yellowish eyes, vertical pupils, sudden change. A moment that passed quickly, but was clear enough for several people to see and know that it wasn't normal. It wasn't a camera effect. These people were there live, in front of him. Of course, skeptics tried to rationalize. They said it could have been light reflections, a perception error, or even mass hallucination. But in this case, there's an interesting detail. The witnesses weren't grouped together, chatting among themselves. They were people in different positions at different times, but with almost identical descriptions. That's not common in visual hallucinations. Moreover, if it was all just a misinterpretation, why did no one else talk about the case? Why did the airport's security footage never come to light? Think about it. One of the most famous artists in the world, surrounded by cameras in a public place, and still nothing? No video, no image from that moment? Doesn't that sound strange? Some suggested that the local cameras might have caught everything, but the footage was either collected or erased. It may sound like an exaggeration, but it wouldn't be the first time something like this has happened. In sensitive cases, images disappear, always with some kind of justification. But in this case, there wasn't even that. And what about Bieber's own team? No statement, no joke, nothing. They just ignored it. And sometimes ignoring something is the clearest response there is. So what did those witnesses really see? A trick of the mind, or a slip of something that wasn't supposed to be noticed? And it's at this point that the doubt settles in. It's not just about what was seen, but about what they tried to make us forget. By now, you might be wondering, if what happened in Perth was truly that strange, why didn't more people talk about it? And this is where a key piece of the puzzle comes into play. The article published by Perth Now didn't just exist. It was published with a serious tone, including witness statements and an objective account. But shortly after, it vanished without any official trace. That's not typical in traditional journalism, especially when the subject involves a global public figure. The article appeared online on May 3, 2014, the same day Justin Bieber arrived. It reported that several witnesses claimed to have seen a physical change in the singer's face, specifically in his eyes. They described the alteration as something reptilian. The article, although brief, wasn't written with irony, and it didn't suggest it was just a rumor. It was written carefully, as if by someone who didn't want to cause panic, but also couldn't ignore what had been said. At the time, forum users shared screenshots with excerpts from the publication. The exact title was never officially recovered, but many claimed it used words like transformation and strange reaction. The problem was that the article link began returning an error just hours after being posted. To this day, no one knows exactly who decided to remove it. Was it an editorial decision, external pressure, or something even more covert? What's curious is that even with the pressure for clicks and attention that drives news outlets, Perth Now didn't try to turn the case into a series of posts. It didn't publish a follow-up. It didn't issue a retraction. It simply made the story disappear. That behavior is, at the very least, contradictory to the industry's standard practices. When a piece of content goes viral or causes controversy, the usual move is to exploit it as much as possible. Here, the opposite happened. Some people suggest the article was taken down due to a legal threat. This theory is supported by one concrete fact. In 2014, Bieber's team was known for being extremely controlling of his public image. Lawsuits against photographers, journalists, and former employees were common. So, it wouldn't be impossible for a quick court order to have been issued to stop the circulation of a story that could spark a scandal. But that explanation, although plausible, doesn't fully add up. If that were the case, why wasn't an official note published? Generally, in cases involving image rights, the site leaves a message indicating the content was removed upon request. Here, not even that happened. What remained was a void, the kind of silence that doesn't sound like retreat, but like suppression. What's even more intriguing is that most people only became aware of the case because the article disappeared. If it had remained online, it might have been forgotten within days. But the act of erasing it gave strength to the narrative. It raised more questions than answers, as if by trying to hide something, they ended up revealing that there was indeed something to hide. With the article removed, theories emerged that the Perth incident was part of a larger pattern. Some people began reviewing moments in Bieber's career, looking for other signs of oddity, and the airport episode came to be seen as a breaking point. An event that may have revealed something meant to remain invisible. More seasoned conspiracy theorists started digging through Perth Now's history, looking for similar cases. They found no other situation where the outlet had removed content with such speed and without explanation. That made the case even more isolated, even more peculiar. And in a world where everything is archived and copied 1,000 times, the absence of that article became almost proof that it had bothered someone. It's here that the pieces begin to fall into place in an unsettling way. When the media deletes something without reason, when the witnesses remain silent, and when the artist himself never addresses the topic, you no longer have a rumor. You have a hole on the map, a missing piece of the narrative. And usually, it's in those missing pieces where the most dangerous secrets reside. The lingering question is, what was so compromising about that article? And even more, who had enough power to make a story published by an Australian news outlet disappear without leaving a single public explanation? After the incident at Perth Airport, something began to happen almost silently. Some people, out of sheer curiosity, started rewatching old videos of Justin Bieber. It only took one person to comment, another to notice, and soon entire compilations were appearing with strange moments involving the singer. And in these videos, one thing kept repeating: the eyes. We're not talking about expressions, fatigue, or something subtle. These are specific seconds in which Bieber's eyes appear wrong. In certain frames, the pupils elongate, change shape, become vertical. In others, the eyes simply blink in a way that doesn't look natural. The scene happens and returns to normal as if nothing occurred. Quick enough to make you doubt what you saw, but clear enough for those paying attention. Many people say it's a recording glitch, video compression effect, or some strange light reflection. Maybe. But the more these videos show up, the harder it becomes to believe it's all just coincidence. Why only him? Why are the eyes always the same pattern? And more importantly, why do these moments always occur when he's distracted or out of focus? In one behind-the-scenes video, for example, he's casually talking to someone from the team. The camera catches him from the side. He turns his head, and there, for a split second, his eyes don't look human. There's no cut, no editing. And if you pause at just the right moment, you can see the exact shape, vertical pupils like those of a lizard. The recording went viral. No one explained it. Another moment happened during a fan meet and greet. A girl films him smiling, and as he blinks, something glitches. The eyelid comes down with a delay. It seems simple, but it's not. There's something about that blink that's unsettling, as if the body hesitated, as if the command to blink failed for a second. And this doesn't happen just once. It happens on different occasions at random moments. And it's always the eyes, as if they're the only part he can't quite hide. Could there be a limit to the camouflage? Or is it that, in those moments, the mask simply fails? Some videos show these changes happening in live broadcasts. Nothing pre-recorded, nothing edited. And the audience sees it, but doesn't always notice. It's all there, hidden in the details. And details, as you know, are where the things no one wants you to see live. We're not saying he transforms into something on camera, but it's too strange to ignore. These are small signs, fragments, as if something is trying to maintain the appearance all the time, but sometimes, for some reason, loses control. Of course, there are those who say it's just people seeing what they want to see. But if it were that simple, why do so many people from so many different places notice the same things? Why always the eyes? Why do these videos bother the skeptics so much? Sometimes all we need to do is pause at the right moment and look, because the eyes, they don't lie. And maybe, just maybe, they're showing something the rest of the body is trying to hide. If the Justin Bieber case seems isolated, maybe it's time to take a closer look at the pattern. Because, believe it or not, he's not the only name to appear in this kind of theory. Over the years, several public figures, especially international celebrities, have been pointed out as something more than just humans with fame. Coincidence? Or part of something much bigger? David Icke, one of the most controversial names when it comes to reptilian theory, was talking about this long before the internet turned everything into a meme. According to him, there's a lineage of non-human beings living among us, hidden under perfectly human appearances. And this lineage would be infiltrated precisely where power is concentrated, in politics, finance, and pop culture. And it's at this point that Justin's name starts to make sense within a much larger mechanism. If something truly disguised were among us, where would it be safer than surrounded by fame, wealth, and total image control? Think about it. If you had to hide something that absurd, where would you put it? Among the people, or at the top of the entertainment industry? It's not just Bieber. Names like Beyoncé, Lady Gaga, Barack Obama, and even Queen Elizabeth II have been mentioned in videos analyzing expressions, strange movements, and of course, eyes with unexplainable alterations. In some cases, there are interview recordings where faces seem to briefly glitch, as if a surface layer were being adjusted. Does that sound absurd? Maybe. But the videos are out there, and even skeptics can't clearly explain all of them. It's curious how these changes almost never happen in front of crowds, but rather in moments of distraction, behind the scenes, in casual recordings. As if this disguise, if we can call it that, wasn't perfect all the time. Or maybe, as if there's a margin of error that occasionally slips out of control. Now, going back to Bieber, it's worth remembering that he started his career as a teenager and quickly became one of the most influential figures on the planet. That's a lot of power, a lot of exposure, and most of all, a lot of control. The industry behind him is massive. Teams, contracts, media, everything always perfectly aligned. But what if part of that control isn't just commercial? Some believe there are hidden symbols in music videos, repeated gestures at award shows, and subliminal messages scattered here and there. Signals between them? Hidden messages for those who know what to look for? These are questions that have circulated for years. And although none of these messages have been officially decoded, the number of coincidences starts to get uncomfortable. There are also those who say these artists aren't just influenced, but used, that they serve as showcases to distract the public, while much bigger things happen far from the spotlight. Sounds exaggerated? Maybe. But if you think about it, how many times have you seen a bizarre piece of news vanish the next day because a celebrity did something controversial? It's not hard to imagine that, in a world ruled by image, a familiar face becomes the ideal disguise. Someone like Bieber can be everywhere at once. No one doubts him. No one expects anything strange from someone so visibly human. And that's exactly where the danger lies. When we stop questioning, we start accepting anything as normal. Maybe all of these theories are just that, theories. But maybe the pattern exists for a reason. And what if that reason is connected to something older, deeper, and far more present than we imagine? Because sometimes the truth doesn't hide in the shadows, but on the stage, right in front of our eyes. There are situations that no publicist can predict, let alone control. Moments when the mask, whether symbolic or literal, slips. And with Justin Bieber, this has happened more than once over the years. Public episodes where he seemed out of sync, as if he wasn't just tired or annoyed, but completely disconnected from who he was. In 2016, during a performance in Manchester, Bieber repeatedly asked fans to stop screaming between songs. At first, his tone was calm, but within seconds, it turned sharp, curt. He dropped the microphone and left the stage for a few minutes. The media called it a diva tantrum, but those who were there say his expression told a different story, as if he was trying to hold something back, as if he was dealing with something internal, or fighting against something trying to break through. A year earlier, during a talk show in the United States, in the middle of a simple interview, he froze mid-answer. Silence for several seconds. His eyes were fixed, barely blinking. The host tried to lighten the mood with a joke, but Bieber seemed switched off. When he finally spoke again, he completely changed the subject. It wasn't nervousness. It felt more like a reset. There's also the video from a 2013 meet and greet. A fan approaches, asks for a photo. Justin smiles, but then looks away and seems distant. The camera keeps rolling, and for a few seconds he stays motionless, staring into nothing. The fan tries to make small talk, but gets no response. A security guard steps in and guides the fan away. And then, as if someone flipped a switch, Bieber smiles again and moves on to the next person. These episodes weren't isolated. At different points in his career, he's been caught speaking in fragmented sentences, responding to simple questions with strange pauses, or averting his gaze as if trying to avoid something. These reactions don't fit the expected behavior of a superstar used to the spotlight. Some people claim these moments are the result of pressure, stress, and the fast-paced life. That's fair, fame comes at a cost. But there's a difference between emotional breakdowns and behavioral lapses. And what's striking here is the consistency of these glitches. They happen in public, yet they always seem to slip past rational explanation. In a documentary produced in 2020, there's a curious scene. Bieber, at home, is talking to the camera about spirituality. Suddenly, his voice lowers, and he stares for several seconds. The camera doesn't cut. The moment is uncomfortable. The edit carries on as if it's an artistic choice, but viewers sense something is off. It's not acting. It's as if, for a moment, he's confronting an invisible conflict. Facial expressions also carry signs. In some clips, he's smiling, dancing, doing exactly what you'd expect from a superstar. But in quick frames, so fast they're easy to miss, his face stiffens. His eyes seem disconnected from the emotion. And even while smiling, there's something cold behind the look. These public slips, small as they may be, stand out because they sharply contrast with the carefully curated image built over the years. The industry molds every appearance, every gesture, every word. But when something breaks through, it breaks through completely. And it's in those seconds that the truth may appear, unannounced, unfiltered. There are many theories about this. Some say he suffers from dissociative episodes. Others believe he's being controlled by something, or someone, far beyond what we imagine. And of course, there are those who suggest the real Bieber might not always be there. That sometimes what we see is just a shell. You might think these are just coincidences, signs of exhaustion, normal distractions. But when the patterns repeat in different places, under varied circumstances, maybe it's not coincidence anymore. Maybe it's a sign that there's something he's trying to keep under control and doesn't always succeed. And then comes the lingering question, what if in those small lapses, in those seemingly human glitches, lies exactly what isn't human at all? No artist of Justin Bieber's stature walks alone. There's a massive structure surrounding him. Producers, managers, record labels, marketing teams, security, public relations, an entire machine working 24/7 to protect, shape, and maintain his public image. But what few people ask is this system only in place to preserve fame? Or is it protecting something more? In over a decade of career, Bieber has faced crises, scandals, rehab stints, and comebacks. But no matter how intense the moment, his career always stayed afloat. Nothing ever truly took him down. And every time something strange happened, like episodes of erratic behavior, unsettling videos, or supposed visual glitches, the machine moved. Everything was silenced quickly, as if there were a silent protocol in place to deal with that kind of incident. An artist can make mistakes, breach contracts, even vanish from the media. But when you notice a system that seems to predict and correct every wrong step with surgical precision, another theory begins to form. Maybe the artist is just a piece, and the machine, the real brain of the operation. There are many accounts from people close to the entertainment industry who speak of silence clauses, contracts with absurd demands, and penalties for leaks. Staff working behind the scenes often sign agreements that forbid them from even commenting on the most trivial situations. But why so much secrecy? What exactly needs to be so tightly guarded? Some former employees of major artists have revealed that there are parts of the routine that never reach the public. Strange schedules, demands that make no sense, sudden changes in behavior followed by alerts telling everyone to say nothing. With Bieber, these reports are even more restricted. People who work with him rarely talk. And when they do, it's always in a neutral, controlled tone, as if following an invisible script. And in cases like the one in Perth, the silence was even more obvious. Neither his team, nor the news outlet, nor any Australian authority gave any explanations. The most that surfaced were jokes on social media and theories dismissed by generic experts. But the lack of consistent answers is often more revealing than any official statement. Within the industry, there's a curious term, proactive damage control. It's when the management team doesn't wait for a scandal, they anticipate it. And when it can't be prevented, they act quickly to erase the traces. In Bieber's case, this control seems more aggressive, as if there's a fear of something slipping out, as if the real risk isn't a tarnished image, but an exposed truth. Some believe Bieber has tried, in subtle ways, to leave clues. That certain music videos, lyrics, and symbols used on stage are actually cries for help or coded messages. Repeated elements like eyes, snakes, labyrinths, mirrors, they're there, visible, but always framed as part of the artistic concept. But is that really all? What if these symbols are more than aesthetic? What if the only way he found to communicate was through the art that surrounds him? What if part of his daily life is so heavily monitored that he can never speak openly? Ever? The silence surrounding all of this doesn't feel natural. It's not the kind of omission that happens by chance. It's a strategic silence, shaped to make it seem like nothing's wrong. But if everything were fine, why would so many people work so hard to convince you of it? In the end, what remains is an unsettling question. Does all this protection exist to preserve the artist, or to guard the secret behind him? What began as a strange report at an airport has spiraled into a web of unanswered questions. Eyes that change, videos that disturb, rehearsed silences, frozen reactions, and a machine that moves with precision whenever something threatens to go off script. It's not about proving anything. It's about noticing the patterns. And once you look at the full picture, you can't pretend it's all normal anymore. This story is just one piece, and one day, you might see the whole puzzle. If this made you think, subscribe, like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share it. After all, more voices mean more discoveries.